Hello and welcome back, the Madden God. I'm Max, your host, and I'm here with the wonderful Roxanne, my co-host. Hi, Roxy.
Hello, Max. Thanks again. Glad to be back this week. I'm awesome. I'm doing good. I ought to be in Hollywood. What about you? How are you doing? We are experiencing technical issues at the Madden God podcast. We would ask for your patience and forgiveness at the same time and allow us to return to our normal schedule. I'm sitting in the podcast by myself in the room. Here comes Max. He's returning.
Yeah.
Hey, there
Hi.
he is.
So, um,
So I kept him entertained. We're good. So go ahead.
great. I don't remember what I was saying, but
So today's podcast, what do you want it to be focused on? What are you saying?
it's
Relationship to the
yes,
self.
relationship to the self. This discovering, this
Okay,
going
good.
deep inside, and working. It's working on the self and realizing and seeing oneself in new ways or old ways or whatever. But it's this uh, realization that you exist, that you go through whatever you go through, but that remains always a relationship with you. It's always you. It's about you. You are you, and that is your reality. That this wonderful thing, right, that we are expressing. And even if we see it the way we see it, it's still the self, it's still you. And and this discovery is something that is a journey. It's a wonderful journey.
Right. So. Okay. Look. You're giving a lot of up here. You need to give relatable
Mhm.
content. Tell me how you felt or what went on. Let's make it relatable for the
Yes,
audience. Because when we're talking from a perspective of just describing it, we want to understand the experience of it. So when you're talking about, well, here, let me just give you this. When I'm relating to myself, I'm taking care of myself. I'm tending to myself. What I mean by that is I don't abuse myself. I was taught to abuse myself. Okay. I had belief systems that I was taught that I was a particular way, and those particular ways generally resonated in the negative side of things, or resided better, resided in the negative side. I wasn't enough. I was a failure. I was a disappointment. Lottie dottie, everyone. So I was rude to myself because my fractal mind, was thinking that I was that because I, the fractal, the one that was born separated as a daywalker, as a human, got the experience of what? The coveting of less than. And so I bought into that coveting because I was fed that from my parents, from my teachers, from society. And then you grow out of that. You start to realize, right?
yes,
And when you realize that, then you can turn that around and start relating to yourself. So the question here is, what kind of relationship do you have with yourself? You don't want to allow yourself to play a victim because that doesn't behoove anyone except for the solicitation of the ego to be fed. If someone validates your victimization by claiming something, this happened, woe is me, oh, I'm sorry, and then you get your compassion and your empathy and all that shit. So you don't do that, but you learn to have a relationship to yourself. So what you said at the beginning of today's podcast is after we had our session last Saturday, you were changed and you went from some specific ideas.
yes,
Well, let's discuss those specific ideas and let's discuss the relationship to yourself and how you transcended those recognitions of the self, the fractal, and the self, the awakener, to look at the self of transcendence. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You had 3 stages, I think you said.
Yes. The stage, the beginning, the discomfort and the feeling inadequate, right? Not being enough. Yeah. Not doing enough.
Why? Why? Okay, look, again, why? Talk about the
Yes.
specifics. What was the emotion? Anger, upset, frustration, sympathy,
Frustration.
specific.
Yes, the frustration of
Good.
doubt and the
Good. Doubt is a good
yes, and the realization of trying the amount of control that I was still expressing, right? So the trying to control my reality, and
Very good.
and that frustrated me in a oh in a way it was just overwhelming because I
Okay.
wasn't noticing it in that way. So I with the realization of I'm trying, look at me trying to control everything relating to to what I want to do, as I was relating to myself not doing that. So I I got really very frustrated and upset with myself. So I needed to go through that and right coming to accepting that aspect, what I was seeing of myself, um, and be with that for a while.
So, okay, great. What did you see about yourself in specific? You accepted it. What did you see? Your frustration? Your
My
controlling
controlling,
approach?
yes, that.
Okay, what was that specifically? A belief
Oh yeah,
system? An
yes,
ego?
belief system, ego.
Okay, well, not, but you're saying it is, it's common. It's not common. It's not common. People don't understand it as common. Stop thinking for the audience what they should know. Teach, Max. Your ego was hurt. It
Yeah.
was frustrated because you recognized how much you were controlling, attempting to control reality. So what did you do? Accept what? What did you accept?
I accepted that aspect of me. That
Bingo. There you go. That's an identity.
yes,
You recognized an identity.
yes,
Very good. So Max has a big fat ego controlling identity.
yeah,
Look at that and live it and be okay
yes,
with it. Because if you're going to skirt around with it, if you're going to fuck around with it, you're going to fight for it, you're going to make your excuse, you're going to cycle. You're
yeah,
going to cycle yourself into a slow, miserable, emotional death. And masters don't do that, do we? We ascend, we transcend. Okay, so you recognize that controlling self, perfect, and you accepted it. How did that feel?
well, that feels good. It feels good because that's when I stopped trying. Uh, I I recognize that I've seen that, and so in the acceptance for me, there was also not just the acceptance of that self, there was also the recognition and the acceptance that my trying was circling, so keeping me in that circle, and so not really putting me in right, giving me access to anything. So with that acceptance, then I also accepted to release that need, to release the trying to do that, to have that control.
Right, right. And it's for me, my experience, I can say to release it, but it doesn't release. If it was that easy by acknowledging something, we would have the entire collective would have ascended by now. It would have been that easy, but it's not easy. It's a movement through the journey of self. You have to live and base yourself, be kind to yourself, but you have to accept that that ego controlling factor is you, and that's vibration. It doesn't matter what it does to people. It doesn't matter what it does to the objects, the externalism. That's irrelevant. That's where humanity gets in here and goes, oh, well, this happened and this happened. And then you're talking about all the details and you're winding up in anywhere except the now.
Yes.
The now, the now is where you do the work. So when you recognize it and start to accept it, you leave that emotion alone.
Yeah.
That's the relationship to yourself of a master to allow you to transcend the emotion by leaving it the fuck alone.
Coming back.
Don't touch it. Don't fix it. Don't affirm it. Don't I release you. And then you have to live it. You have to experience with every fiber of your beingness. I'm controlling. Surrender is the idea of acceptance. Acceptance, you acknowledge it, but you surrender to that feeling. You allow it to become.
Yeah.
And you got to look at yourself 1,000 times a day, and just to get one really good idea of self, and then all those other selves that you missed will be done. So that's why it worked on Saturday, because you've done all the work, and then you found more of yourself. The one thing I found out about this journey is there's no expectations. Don't do it to yourself, because no matter how many times you transcend the self, you're going to find another self until it's done. And when is it done? Who knows?
And what
So always know that that belief is transcendable. That's where it doesn't become the truth anymore of you, to where you don't have to react to that moment. You don't have to control that moment. Not because your mind is telling you not to do that, it's because you don't have it in your nature to control anymore, because it's not a behavioral aspect of you. It's not a fractal belief any longer.
Yeah, and what I felt doing as I was going through all of this is that I was bringing myself back to the moment. So my controlling was pushing me out. It was
Out of the
out of
moment.
the moment. I was
Absolutely. Pushing you right into
yeah,
time.
and right there I felt coming back and feeling the moment and being in the moment. So that then well then I'm here. It feels like coming back home. It's yeah, and
So relating to the self, how do you relate to yourself? I create a self, me, that's already there. I'm just paying attention to the observer now. The observer is the one that allows me to suffer the negative emotions of humanity. The observer self allows me to feel and suffer in that same aspect the positive parts, the positive belief systems of humanity. Because it's polarity we're transcending. By nature, we're unconditional. That state of being doesn't have a relationship of definement. It cannot be confined. The universe creation itself is absolute chaotic change. To ever try to grab creation and contain it to a moment is ludicrous. It's phenomenal ludicrous, truly. I embrace or I encourage people to do that, to control your reality, to feel what it is to relate to reality through lack, through less than a self. And that observer, when awakening, is now in the relationship with yourself. It is the go between you and yourself. It is that self that says, I'm going to allow this. I'm going to choose this. And the more you choose your nature, the less of the observer and the fractal will be there. There's more non choices in your life. But those reactions is what you want.
Yes.
Without reactions, you will never see what you are in truth. You will just keep systematically valuing polarity, feeding it into your vortex, and creating those attractive realities.
Yeah.
So you take care of yourself,
Yes.
not in compassion and kindness. You take care of yourself in the validity of you being a creator, awakening to itself, using an awareness within your kingdom, the awoke self, to say, I am, and then journey through that. That's the relatable, that's the relationship to myself. The fractal is just a point of view. The whole self is me. The observer is the tool. The journey is the ascension of humanity. The class is, this is it. Go ahead.
Yes. And the discovery and then the attendance goes deeper and deeper. And yes, it takes it's uncomfortable, really, and painful also, uh, because as I was saying, I had an idea of, which is another belief system that I was holding, that I was doing good, meaning that I was controlling how I was perceiving myself through this journey, so that I had to appear.
Perfect.
Yeah, I had to appear in a certain way. Um, Especially, right, I'm doing great, this is what I ought to say, this is how I have to say it. If I say this way, then I know that I'm doing good, right? These kind of things. um, and and that self, I realize that self can just go through unobserved until you observe it, because I was not realizing, right? I was not aware of it uh, until I've become aware of it.
Yeah, and there's no way to become aware of it with
Yeah.
intention. It's a law of attraction. It comes to you. As you choose your truth, you change frequency. The internal truth, not the truth of memory, not the truth of identity, not the truth of polarity, not the belief system that you've created that gives you a valuable external programming. Like you said, I'm keeping myself looking good, controlling the way I look and the way I feel. That's a creative belief system. You
Oh, yeah.
recognize that. That came in its natural attraction. You've evolved to that point of, I'm aware of this now. That's why you journey in the now. Don't try to get it all right the first day. Unwilling to take the journey is going to be very difficult. You can't fix it. There's no pill. There's no magic pill. You wake up and then you're a whole being and all the separation is gone. The point is to come here is to experience polarity in its fullness, and how you experience is up to you. In that idea, we've given ourselves the awareness. So now I had a relationship with myself. I never had a relationship with myself. My first relationship with myself truly was when I transitioned to Roxanne, 2010. That's when I started taking care of this, because the outside self was absolutely horrible. It was horrible to the inside self. It was horrible to other people because it was confined and upset, and I couldn't bring out my natural self. So I was always exuding my anger self, my frustrated self, my lacking self, my abusive self, because that was the way I was feeling my identity. I was feeling alive through through all these selves I've created. And then I start paying attention to the internal self. And that's when I start taking care of myself and start relating to myself and says, here's a person inside of me that feels this particular way. Not the way she thinks, not the what she acts like, just feels. And you're starting that simplicity, you know? For me, I started in that simplistic way, the way she feels, and start developing a relationship with my internal self, starting to fall in love with myself, but not in romance, of course not, but falling in love with myself as the respect it is. I count. I deserve to know myself. My life has given me why I'm not enough. My life has given me why I need to do this. My life has given me all of these external values held by the reinforcements of humanity through time and standards and authorities that scared the shit out of me, that there was no room for the internal self until I grew sick of myself. And then I woke up and I found out that that's the self, and I can start giving myself, I can give myself space. I can give myself respect. I can give myself time. And my mind was like, hurry, 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 fix, 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 do, do, do. And I journeyed. It's 12 years since Roxanne emerged, since I let her out and became I am in that. And the journey has been exquisite. And there's thousands and thousands of belief systems I've transcended and gone through to birth something that doesn't have intention, doesn't have purpose. It's not out for solicitations of acceptance. It doesn't need to be validated in any way, for there is no validation if you're in wholeness. You don't need this external ideas. And then, the mind itself thinks in opposition. So without this, then this must be it. Or what are you going to do if you don't have that? It perceives loss always. So you learn to allow yourself to take the journey and discover the unknown intelligence that lies in the creative now, beyond comprehension to the mindful um, uh, human that is seeking the betterment of itself. You discover the intelligence and the beauty of yourself without defining, without pursuit. It's extremely exquisite. So I highly recommend everyone back off yourself for a little bit. Give yourself a moment. It's okay, but don't tip the scales over to seeking sympathy or victim. Don't go and feel sorry for yourself. That's just another version of polarity. You're putting yourself in an identified position. It's going to take time. It's going to take perseverance. It's going to take temperance and allow you to not judge yourself so much. It's a master journey. If you're listening to this, you're awake. You're awake to yourself, not the woke people they say in the news or whatever the hell that definition. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the internal awareness of I am, the kingdom of heaven that lies within, the truth that lies in the eye of the beholder, the things that we've left ourselves of the journey of humanity, these breadcrumbs we've left in these endless places, and all of them lead to the same place. They lead home to the awareness of self. So when you create your observatory self, that's a relationship that needs to be tended to, cultured, nourished with with charity, not with not with motivation, and tension, not with rudeness and come on, you can do it, and trying to reach a goal. That's human. You're enough without goals. The future is a relationship to the now. The past is a relationship to the now. How you deem yourself in the future and the past is still, no matter what, it's always a relationship in the now. So
Yeah.
cultivate that self, like you say. Be humble to the discoveries. Go ahead.
Yes. And for me, it has come with the realization that I can do no wrong, but I started with the notion of it, and now I am knowing it deeply because I've chosen to relate to myself in that way. So my experiences, my even going through this discovery of these selves that I'm choosing not to keep, but I'm not relating to those selves as wrong selves. I'm relating to those selves as selves that exist and that have a relationship with me, obviously. But that is not a relationship of right or wrong, is a relationship of it's me. And uh, and so I've changed all of my relationship with reality in this duality, right? Oh, I'm doing right or I'm doing wrong. So that's my only option. So I try to do right because, well, that's what I've been told that I have to do. It's the right thing, and I have to go against the wrong thing because that's wrong. That's bad. And now with this realization of, well, I'm I'm not, there's neither of those are, I have to apply neither of those. I'm just doing me. I'm just expressing myself and discovering myself. And so that's all and all of it.
It's a big crow. What I like about that, what you said, Max, is the notion of it, the right and the wrong. You didn't know it, but you had the notion of it. It's a concept.
Yeah.
Right is a concept. How many times have you been right when someone else says that was wrong? That must show you it's a concept. Inherently, we all know, creation knows the difference between what we would consider right and wrong. But it's not in the human right and wrong. It's something that you wouldn't preference in yourself. What is one man's trash, which is wrong to you, right, is wrong to them, might be right to you,
Yes.
right? So polarity is only a visual or interpreted aspect. So what I like you said is you notioned the idea. And now you understand it's not right, it's not wrong. I see it, it's truth. All of creation is possible, all of creation is true, all of it is real. You can't have false or it wouldn't exist. Since everything in creation exists, it's all true. How you relate to the truth is your truth or not your truth. It doesn't really matter. It's with your preference or doesn't preference. But in the idea of labeling it externally right and wrong, you can go past that and you can just see those are choices of how to relate to the truth of creation. And I think that was a good thing because you can't get that concept up here in the affirmation mind. You have to live that concept. You have to understand it by observing your reactions to being wrong. How many times it says, man, I hope this isn't a wrong decision? Well, because you're looking for a better self to create. You don't want to create a better self. You're always enough. And that's what you labeled your thing today, enough,
Yeah.
right? So if you realize that you're enough in the moment, The decision you make, you can base that off of your internal self. Now, I know the fractal mind says, well, you've got to make sure it's right. So maybe do some research or maybe ask for advice. Maybe you need to be led into your own universe instead of creating. And that's your validated fractal mind over and over again. So you think that way. But there's an option is to see that the choice I want to make, I feel to make, not emotionally, not for reason. The unreasonable, non emotional I am, badass creator says, I'm going to choose this because it feels right. Now, that might look wrong to other people, but those are nations unto themselves. Those are kingdoms relating in their own little bubble. You're just a speck of light that's interpreted in their world as right or as wrong or whatever they deem to label you as or to perceive you as entirely and never shall be up to those ideas, them. So when you get the notion of right and wrong, you'll understand regret. You'll understand hope. You'll understand disappointment, all based on right and wrong. So what happens when you stop viewing reality as right and wrong is just is right now.
Yeah.
Is it wrong that people slaughtered these little kids in Uvalde, Texas? Yes, that's wrong. In my fractal human side, that's horrible. There was so many bad decisions, but I can sit here and talk how bad that was. But I'm only feeding that energetic idea. So that was a reality that played out in the truth. Every singularity involved in that moment experienced itself. Whether you experienced it through pain and frustration or you don't give a crap about it, it's all individual. Because we're not looking at the specifics, we're looking at the entire idea of creation knowing itself. It's all true, it is all happening. In whatever way everyone is perceiving is the possibility of creation experience. That's it. So now you're questioning yourself, looking at yourself. All these things that are rattling off in your mind about these things are yourself. Those are the truths of you that you hold valuable. And even if the value is painful, the value is disagreement, the value is agreement, it doesn't matter. What doesn't matter what you're agreeing with or not agreeing with, that's external. What it matters is that you're now in a relationship with yourself. You're recognizing your belief system.
Yes.
The actions that are around you every day, and then how you can do that. So instead of looking at reality, there's a notion out there that it is just is. It's not right or wrong unless I want to label it. I can't. I can choose a thing and look in the future and then regret it because I'm viewing the outcome through expectation as a failure. So I would go back in time and regret the self that is there, which is actually this self regretting time of choice, my past. So now the now self gets to experience that because that's the only self there ever is. The self in the now, the one that is I am, the one that is always constantly living, always constantly evolving, always constantly changing. So your regretful self choice is a way to relate to yourself. You can beat the shit out of yourself for that choice. I was very good at beating myself up for choices, but I was also very good at following my joy. That brought me a lot of regretful choices because I was not honest with myself. I wasn't knowing myself. I was living for others. But when those selves, the internal self, wanted to be expressed and I let her out, I disappointed a lot of people. I caused a lot of pain. I was a freak. I was this. I was that. Then I got to relate to myself through more exposed, regretful, my fault. But is that not my work? Of course it is.
Yeah.
So that was good stuff. The notion of it just starts the depletion of the belief system that right and wrong are a constant. They're not. They're a perception.
Yeah. Yes.
Booyah.
And something that we relate to because that's all we know, right? We have been talked into that all along.
That's all we know. We coveted that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And um, and one thing that was extraordinary to me is the moment when you said, I think it was in a previous episode, you said what you said today too, right? Choosing what feels better, the best, what we relate to as a choice. And when you said that, that opened to me avenues of understanding and of observation and being able at that moment to understand my relationship with the choice. Am I making this choice
Yes.
because why? Why am I making this choice?
For a reason.
Yeah, for a reason. Why am I opposing?
I make choices because I can't help it.
And
That's, go ahead.
yeah, and that was right frustrating because it showed me how I was fighting for the choice, how I was not choosing because, well, that was the obvious or best or whatever. I was choosing because I was saying, oh, I don't want that. I'm against that. I don't like that. So I'm opposing that. So I'm choosing this other choice because I don't want that.
Right. So you're still controlling.
Yes.
Bingo.
Where,
Or attempting to control, but it's still your reality that you are controlling. That's your specific journey,
yeah,
your specific experience. No one else.
yeah. And so then I came to wonder about my authenticity. Am I expressing any authenticity? Am I expressing anything that is not that I'm not trying to manage, to control? And so then, yeah, what am I? Right? Who am I? What am I expressing? Because if I'm trying to control, then I'm also trying to control the self that I'm expressing. So I'm creating an identity, or am I controlling the identity? What am I doing actually?
And that's a relationship to yourself. To be observant and dead nuts, brutal honesty with yourself.
Yeah.
It's easy to bullshit yourself. It's so simple to bullshit ourselves. We bullshit ourselves with our own mind, selling us the outcome in time that doesn't exist in the future, because there's no future, there's only now. And we create relationships of the future through the now.
Yeah. And so,
And you saw it.
yes,
You saw it.
yes, yeah, yeah, I saw it. And it's painful because it is.
Yes.
It's just painful.
It's embarrassing sometimes. It's frustrating sometimes. It's angry sometimes. It's scared sometimes. But ascension is deconstructing an entire species of identity that know nothing but the species of identity. The separation, you start out naked, nothing, clean slate, no remembrance of self, no gestalt, no I am, no infinite number of lifetimes that are held in the isness of you. The intelligence of you is gone from a mere point of view. And you're born into human and your hostile vibration. The whole world is frequency of chaos. And we're birthed into that for an experience of mastery to get a way to feel about creation. I get to feel this way. I get to understand this because I'm a master of creation and I can journey into the unknown parts of me and I can feel polarity. I can feel pain and happiness. I can have them taken away and brought back. I can rely on others to give me those things. I can rely on others to take away those things because I am not my own kingdom. I am absent from myself. And then I awaken. The awakening is occurring. We are waking up to a species. Species aren't afraid. Gods aren't afraid. We don't fuck each other over for the mighty dollar. Humans do that for experience. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's the experience of it. But a singularity changes their world, changes creation. You can maintain. I think that's what we were talking about. What are you representing before? What are you representing? I'm going to represent the relationship to myself through this idea of self discovery that has a valuable idea that cannot be sold. It has to be experienced. It cannot be negotiated with or convinced. You can't put it out there as an idea of you can have this and you'll be this. Bullshit. You don't know what nothing's going to be. You represent the authentic internal journey, the behavioral expressions that vibrate in authenticity, that allow you to be that self and exude that light so others may choose the kingdom of their own idea, of their internal self. And that's represented in whatever way they represent it. But as long as it's authentic to that, that's how you evolve a species. And of course, it's going to be painful because we live the emotions. Happiness that's taken away is an emotion. Happiness as a state of being is the constant that we are. But you cannot keep fighting for your happiness and avoiding, like you said, I don't want that, I want this. Controlling your happiness in pursuit of happiness. What you have to realize is everything that gives you those points of view is what you need to tear down. And then revealed is the state of being that's beyond polarity, that's beyond bliss. It's an isness, an awareness of creation, and it's indescribable. It's a non-tangible. You can't get it. You have to take apart yourself and discover what lies beneath yourself. This image that you hold up every day, that you work for and fight for every day, fighting for your belief systems, arguing for the reasons why you have to live a certain way. Because without that identity, you are empty, you are naked, you are afraid, you have no idea of yourself. Down here in human, babies don't have an idea of themselves, they're just waddling around. Then we start teaching them, you have an idea about yourself, and it better be this, or it better be that. And we covet. We covet through the parental figures, through the authoritative figures, through the teachers, through everything that we find in society, our peers, our friends, our enemies, everything gives us a way to relate. But the awakener has an observer, a discernment of spirits that says, I can see that belief system. I recognize that frequency. I understand if I choose this, it would not be in the beneficial of my internal self. It would benefit the external fractal, the separated self. And I can choose either one because no one's judging me, because there's no outcome. There's no race. There's no, aha, we did it.
Yes.
There's only I am right now.
And that is right the moment. It's a pivotal moment to realize that whichever you choose, it's your choice, and you are doing no wrong. You're doing no good either, but you are allowed that choice. No one judges you. There is no judgment of any figure or
Humans
whatever.
will judge you.
Human, yeah, the human.
But there's no one outside of you judging you. You're only interpreting the judgment, accepting other people as judging you. That's your internal.
Exactly.
That's the relationship you're building with yourself, to recognize those things. But there's no one in charge of creation. There's no God outside of us going, oh, he doesn't have a committee of people keeping tabs on us. That's all human.
Yeah.
Coming up with these wonderful stories of the possibilities of creation. But what's happening is you in your bubble here and now. That's it.
Yes.
And how you relate, that's your kingdom. That's your experience.
And I found for me that journey to come to this. So to let go of that word of external judgment or overpower that is watching literally down to you if they watch. Sometimes I say, well, they could have better to do than watch a singular person, but it's
Yeah, they're all watching us. Yeah, they're real interested in humans.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And to realize that idea of that overpower external power, and then it comes down to actually me taking that as reality, as true, but it then becomes actually me judging myself with the idea of the external judgment, because that is easier to externalize the judgment than to actually realize it's still me judging me. And so everything then becomes the external, and the victimization, I'm victim because they did it to me. uh, I'm not feeling good because, oh, life is so terrible because they do life so terrible. Oh, all right. And that, when I got to the point where I just have just seen that and decided to go inside and to relate to me totally and completely. So I am the one working on myself. I am the one allowing myself this choice of work and this discovering my self-worth, which I'm discovering, but actually is the fractal discovering it, because that has not never been a question. Am I worth? Yeah, I'm worth. The fractal is not seeing it. So going inside, then it has become so liberating and giving me access to me.
Access to you.
Yes.
When it's all done with the point of view. The tools we've learned in relationship to the self: humility, trust, courage, allowance, surrender, knowing and trusting not just the notion that you are the creator of your own reality. Right now, not in the specifics of external manifestation. Forget about that. Let's look at the experience. Stay humble to the notion that we create our own experience through mere interpretation. And since we were born with nothing, we see what we believe as truth. We experience it. This only shows through cultures. You have all these different cultures, these different ways to relate, and everyone has their opinion on how things should be. And we all just chaotically value our differences, but we value them for self identity. And so we're constantly opposing each other. And the government reinforces that, society reinforces it. But that's the human fractals experiencing. The awakeners are light bearers. They are offerers of change. They solicit attention through unsolicited works of isness, beingness, non intentional I ams roaming around in humanity, enlightening the world with the beauty of themselves. That's how we change a collective, by representing that. So, all of these things that are going on with human, we can sit here and make a hell of a podcast on right and wrong. We can sit here and make a great argument for something instead of opposed to something. And we like arguing as a species. We are great fucking arguers. But that's part of the fractal experience, is to oppose, to sway, to negotiate, to give in, to become more. Those are all the aspects of humanity playing out that little human bubble. But you can hold yourself as an observer to those things. You have now a relationship with the new self, the fractal of me. I'm here, and then I see my fractal through observation, through that. Sometimes I don't see my fractal. I'm a raving bitch sometimes, and all of a sudden, wow, that was me. That was a recognition through that expression that maybe I don't need to be that upset about something because it was a reaction. And I had an emotional reaction, which was a relationship to reality that I now recognize. And the recognition is that's my shit. I own that.
Yeah.
And I can change that. But first I have to transcend it. I don't want to fix it. Oh God, no, let's not fix anything. Nothing's broken.
Yeah.
Nothing's broken.
Yeah. One thing that you said to me and that stick to me when I made that extra step, you made me understand the importance of things, meaning it's not important. All the relationships with anything that has happened, the memory or the future or whatever, is it important to the point of whatever? And I realized, well, no, it is not. Except when I give it, when I decide that's important. But then I realize, well, look at me right here, right now. Well, where is that thing that I thought is important right now? Well, not here and now. So is it that important? No, it isn't, because it's not here and now. It's gone.
If it was here, it would be your truth. It wouldn't be important then. It would be your passion. Important is an idea of lack. That's important. We have to make that right. That's just a focused identity of accomplishment to feel that's important. Because without it, what happens? In the perceived mind of importance, there's a loss.
Yeah.
And we don't want the loss. Otherwise, why would it be important? Yeah. And the loss is done in 1,000 ways. But it's all identity.
Yeah. And you see, it's I saw a video recently, and this video, there was a guy that was shouting to another guy that they didn't have the competence to say whatever they were saying, and that because they knew that because they have a PhD and something like that. So the other guy answered, well, maybe seeing what you are seeing, we should take away your PhD. And and I thought, you see, this is this thing, right? One thought I'm right, the other thinks that he's right. So they shout at each other, and they stay in that perspective of they're wrong, I'm right. So I'm setting them right. I'm showing them right.
Yeah, I'm better, and I'm making that person know something different.
But then that person answers back, right, and says, "Well,
bingo."
Right? And I mean, I was like that. I think that we can relate to that idea of I'm right.
We're like that, yeah.
Until then, until the moment where you see how that actually leads nowhere, except because you are literally not expressing the truth. You have a point of view, yes, you have you're valid, but they're valid too. And that recognition is also the recognition of the self. I don't need to have the validation of gaining the point to be right. I am enough.
Bingo. You're enough. You're not seeking outside validation. That person changing their point and validating you. That's the lack right at work. Let a person have their truth.
Yes.
Your lack is to change that truth. Why? You represent the truth of you and allow the person to see that within. If they see it, great. If they don't, they don't. But why do you have to get a person to be like you? Do we all want to be the same? Are you fucking kidding me? Do we all want to be this perfect little race, this perfect little species according to whoever the fuck's in charge? Oh, I don't know. Just look at history. We've done that 1,000 times. We've wiped out half the ones that don't look right and whoever's in power. Genghis fucking Khan did it. Hitler tried it.
Yeah.
Right? That's just in this one. How about all the other fucking times? We don't remember how old we are. We only remember what we think is in the history, but we're hundreds of thousands of years old, and all we've been really good at is slaughtering each other to try to make the species into the perfection. That's why we need humility. That's why the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah.
Not the wealthy, not the fat and pompous, the ones that understand. Now, it doesn't matter if you have money. I'm not talking about the presence of money and the presence of wealth. Oh, hell no. I'm talking about the relationship that you hold that in esteem as part of your identity. You have all the money in the world. Everything is true. You can be as poor as you want. Everything is true. As long as you're using them as identity, you're only feeding the hungry lion of lack. Yeah.
And I think that,
You good?
yeah, and to end this is that my journey, right, through these days, in the end, brings me always back to the love for me, the love of the self. I love myself.
Perfect.
It's always
Perfect.
there.
You gave yourself this gift. You wanted to come to humanity. We couldn't wait to birth into this world. When we're down here, we're like, what the fuck were we thinking?
Yeah.
But now that we understand it, now we understand the intelligence, then we revere it. We embrace it. We express it. We don't apologize or negotiate with ourselves any further. We are birthing, maturing the species through the I am. Booyah.
Yes. And
let's end it on that, my friend.
Yes, and with this we leave you with these wonderful words. And so thank you to all of you for listening. Thank you, Roxy. Amazing.
You're welcome, and thanks all out there listening.
So up until next time. Bye-bye.